We see a lot of flooding throughout the Tennessee Valley throughout the years. So today I just want to talk about our flooding safety tips. Some years we do see more rain than others. This year we are in a deficit as of the moment, but I can tell you that I'm sure we will see flash flooding throughout the coming days across the Tennessee Valley. So it's always better to be prepared. So heavy rainfall can lead to rapid water rising in low-lying areas and rivers. 6 inches of water, only 6 inches, is enough to sweep a person away. A foot of water is enough to sweep a car or an SUV away, where 18 inches of water is enough to sweep larger vehicles away, like 18-wheelers. So the most important thing that you're ever going to hear Jordan and I talk about when we are on the topic of flooding is to turn around, don't drown. That is probably one of the most important tips that we will always give you when it comes to the topic of flooding. So what is the difference between a flash flood watch and a flash flood warning? Flash flood watch means that conditions are favorable for flooding to occur. It doesn't mean that it's happening at the moment. That's just your sign to start preparing for flooding to potentially occur. Flash flood warning means that a flash flood is happening now, it is imminent, and you need to take action immediately, have your flood plan in place. So here's how you can prepare for flooding. I know flash flooding kind of just jumps upon us and we don't really have a whole lot of time to prepare for it, but here's what you can do to prepare if we do see days where we are expected to see heavy amounts of rainfall and a lot of it. So you need to know your risk. Are you in a floodplain or not? You need to check your insurance for coverage of flooding. You want to clear the storm drains of any loose debris, and of course charge your electronic devices in case of any emergency where you're not going to be able to have power. So we have 2 different types of flash flooding. The first one is rural flash flooding. That's when we see excessive rainfall that raises streams and the river levels, and it can overflow. That would be causing flash flooding. We also have urban flash flooding, which is where water can penetrate the soil easier than the pavement, and the excessive rain can overwhelm the storm drainage system. That's why it's always important to have your storm drains cleaned out. So here's the difference between the water levels. Like I mentioned earlier, about 6 inches of rainfall is enough to sweep away a person. A foot of rainfall is enough to sweep away a car, where 18 inches of rainfall is enough to sweep away our larger vehicles like larger SUVs, trucks, and of course 18-wheelers. So obviously with flooding, that does have the topic of hydroplaning on our minds as well. So we're going to talk about that too. So dry versus wet roadways. Dry roads is where our tires are going to make contact with the road at all times. At all times that our tire is on the road, we are going to have that contact between the tire and the pavement. Whereas when we have the wet roads, we have loss of contact on the wet road at certain speeds, and that's what's causing hydroplaning. So hydroplaning is basically when your tires and the pavement, they don't come into contact anymore because of that roadway being wet. We don't have the traction that we usually see when we have the drier roadways. So that's why we always tell you, if you are out and about when it is raining, it is important to drive slow, leave yourself a lot of time to get to whatever destination you need to be going to, so you can stay with the slower speeds, because the slower speeds are going to be the most important for road contact to stay in contact. If we have moderate speeds, you do have some sort of road contact. It's just going to be less road contact. And of course, if you're speeding down the highway in the middle of a rainstorm, which is always the worst case scenario, that's when you're going to have loss of contact between the wheel and the roadway, and that is what's going to cause hydroplaning. So once again, it's always important to remember our flooding safety tips. And as always, you want to turn around and don't drown.